Hey everybody, welcome to Strength Your Way. This is the second in a series of videos about creating your own strength program, no matter where you're starting, that is gradual, progressive, and consistent. This is about building a habit of building strength in your body. Strength is one of the most important factors in regards to longevity and ease, comfort in your body, not just in athletics or physical pursuits, but just in everyday living. So, last time we focused on body weight. And if you missed that video, I'll put a link below. But today, I'm going to take you to what I went to next. After months of training with my body weight, I was doing a lot of reps in order to challenge my body, and it was time for me to have some kind of external resistance. So, what I did next was go to resistance bands. Now, I am not telling you how to do this. I am giving you ideas for building your own program. So, I'm going to show you the gear that I used, and you can find this almost anywhere. I bought these off of Amazon. I know, forgive me for that, but and of course you get with a package you get a series of bands, and they vary in their resistance. So in mine, this yellow one, they say 10 pounds, the blue one 20, the green one 30, the red one 40, and the black one 50. Now, we're going to talk in a minute about the fact that you can't really translate the resistant band to those actual pound weight, but it gives you an idea of, like, yellow is easiest, the red is hardest, and you can play with it from there. One of the things that you can do is you'll notice on the end of these bands there are little hooks, and you can hook handles onto these bands so that you can pull on them with your hands. And there's other ways of using them too. They're actually tremendously versatile. It's one of the benefits of them. Um, and so you can build up if you find that after a while, even the red one is not enough resistance, you can add bands together. Some other things that you get in the package are the ones that I got in mine. There is this little doohickey, which is kind of cool. It's got a little foam roller thing that you stick into the crease in a doorway between the door and the frame, and then you can hook the band here, and you can do things like pulling either on both sides or one side, um, and that's super handy. You also get these kind of bands. I don't know if you can see, but they've got super strong Velcro on them. And you could put this around your ankle or something like that, and that would allow you to pull with your leg in a different way. And I used it that way. Now that I'm using physical weights like weight plates, I actually also use these to create a handle for a series of plates. So I like having these around. Um, the other thing that I noticed when I was using the bands was that after a while, I like to work out barefoot, but after a while, if I was stepping on the band, pulling on the bands on the sides of my feet didn't feel that great. Now, I broke both of my fifth metatarsals, which is the little foot bone on the outside edge of both of my feet. So I might be sensitive in that way. But a couple of things that you can do. I have these light shoes that give me just a little bit of support and protect my foot with this sort of rubber outside if I'm standing on the band. The other thing that I'll show you in a minute is you can also stand on a little platform that can do the same thing and also protect your feet. So that's the gear. Here are the benefits to using bands. First of all, They're super cheap. I think I got this whole set for under 20 bucks. And after a while, I needed a second set because I needed more bands to give myself more resistance, but it was a pretty easy investment. Um, they're super light. So it was easy for me to pack all of my bands and all of the gear into a small bag and take it with me on the road. So that's something to consider if you travel a lot or you're in places where you might not be able to get to your gear. Um, and they're very versatile. As I mentioned, I'm going to show you just a smattering, just a few things that you can do with the bands. Although there are a couple of things which I never really figured out how to do anything with. So there are things to consider when you're putting together your program. Take a look at what I did and then see if there are any gaps that I can help fill for you. Um, so I mentioned that the bands will tell you, this is supposed to be a 20-pound band. Well, you can imagine that if I am doing a bicep curl and I am 5'7", I'm going to have less tension on that band than my husband, who is 6'2", right? He's taller, so he's pulling, it's more taut on the band. Similarly, if I am pulling and I am standing very close to wherever the band is tethered, that's going to be less resistance than if I move farther away. So it's variable as to how much resistance you're actually getting. Here's where you have to just listen to your body and know that compared to what you did before, measuring that way has to be the way that you keep track of your progression. You're not going to be able to say, I can squat 75 pounds because it's going to depend. Um, the other thing that I want you to keep in mind, I wonder if you can see this. Here, I'll show you this one. So over time, and actually over not that much time, the bands, can you see this? The bands start to do what they call dry rot. They start to corrode a little bit and start to fall apart. I've never actually had one snap on me, but this one looks like it might be anytime soon. So you have to keep an eye on them and make sure that they are secure. And when they start to degrade, you have to replace them. So keeping that in mind. Um, and at some point, there's going to be only so many bands that you can strap together. I mean, there was at one point before I went to the next progression, I would have sometimes 4 or 5 bands all strapped together on these little handles, and after a while, it got to be kind of a little much. So I really invite you to play with this, but it's a great place to go if you are kind of in between doing using your body weight and using plates and barbells and that kind of thing. Um, yeah, let's see what else. Oh, and so now when you're adding these external weights, what I'm inviting is to start to progress to lower reps than you may be doing with your body weight. So maybe 3 or 4 sets, but with fewer repetitions. So somewhere maybe between 6 and 9 or 7 and 10 instead of 10 and 15 or more, which you might have been doing with your body weight. What we want to start working toward is lower reps and so that we are working at higher weights. That's what's going to stimulate bone growth. That's what's going to progress and retain your muscle development. So let's give it a go. Let's do a couple of exercises together and we can experiment and see what works for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you I'm going to show you, let's see, I'll show you a couple different ways. I'm going to show you what I did with just one band. It's not really important how much I'm lifting here. But here's what I was talking about. This is just a simple wooden platform that my husband threw together in his shop. You might not have a husband that throws these things together in the shop. in which case you're welcome just to use shoes. But what this did was it allowed me to stand barefoot and really feel the surface of the floor underneath me, and not feel the tension of the band along the outside of my feet. So let's start with legs and hips. So doing squats with the band is great. Oh, one of the things I didn't mention before, which is important, is when you use the bands, you're getting resistance in both directions, not just against gravity, pushing up, but also on the way down. So let's play with a squat here. So you can see that my hands are right at my shoulders, and I've got my feet kind of narrow, but you can take them wider for sure. And I'm going to keep my chest up and just sit down and push up. So you can see how, because I've got the band on me, I am getting resistance in both directions. Yeah? I'm feeling the band in both directions. This is a great exercise to do with the band. I love this one. Yeah. Nice. And then I'm gonna move this to the side so that you can see. Yeah. So now the next exercise for legs and hips is the deadlift. And here, what I'm inviting you to do is, instead of holding the handles, because that, for most bodies, that's going to be too long for the deadlift. So I'm going to hold the band right at the top of the elastic part. And as you may remember from doing this with your body weight, you're going to stand up tall with your chest long and with your legs relatively straight, maybe a little bit bent. You're going to come over and stand up. Again, you're getting resistance in both directions. Yeah, this is great. So this speaks to what I was talking about, is if I hold the band further down, I'm going to get more resistance. So you can play with it, but I invite you to do something consistently. Maybe mark the band or you hold it so that you can tell how you're progressing. Part of that's going to come from just feeling your body. You'll feel when you are hitting resistance. When you're working, you don't necessarily want to work until you can't do anymore, but you want to work in such a way that you can really feel your muscles working. So legs and hips. One thing that I wanted to show you, I forgot to need another thing, is you can take, if you're on a hardwood floor, this is a great exercise to do for your hips. We did bridge pose, hip lifts from the bridge last time. So from our body weight, we can have the heels dig down and lift up. Yeah. But another way, a little more challenging way to do this, is to take your heels and put them, I've got them on wool socks here. And what you can do is push up and slide your feet out and then back in. Slide out and back in. This is really going to work your hamstrings, the backs of your legs. And this is one that I still do. Woo, boy, it's so good. Keeping your hips up and feeling as much of that range of motion as you can. Yeah, so those are 3 ways that you can work your hips and your legs. And that those exercises will target all areas, both front and back, and both pushing and pulling movement. Yeah? Okay, so let's move on to chest and back. Now, here's one of the places where I never found a good way to do a chest press with the band. somebody out there, if you know how to do this, I never figured out a good way to do it. Even with a bench, you need to secure the band, and so anyway, I always just stuck with variations on the push-up. This we also talked about last time. There's lots of ways of doing this. You can do it against a wall. You can do it against, I've got a nice windowsill here. I also use a chair. You can use a railing like I've got over here. Lots of options for getting that pushing movement through your chest. The invitation here is, again, to use the variations to create a progression so that once you start to be able to do, 15 or more, it's time to go to a lower progression, to something that's more challenging. And you can work toward being on the floor. I still struggle with that sometimes, but you can just take yourself either with or without knees, up and down, off. Yeah. So one thing that's great about the bands is that the pulling movement is a great one to do. So this chair, so it's not in the way. And I've got a railing in my studio. This is you can see here, I've got that doohickey that's got that's in the crease of the door that allows me to do pulls this way. So that's another way that you could do what I'm about to do on the railing. And what I do is just thread this through, and then step back. And again, the further back you stand, the more challenging this is. Sit back with my butt pulling away, long spine, and pull. Now, there's lots of great ways that you can do this. You can see I'm kind of pulling back in a wide way here. You could also pull narrow with your elbows coming along your sides. This is a movement that we often leave out, a pulling movement. And it's really beneficial. I can really feel this between my shoulder blades and my middle back. So this is a great thing to play with bands. Again, you want to be aiming for somewhere around, four sets maybe, and lower repetitions. So you want it to be heavy enough that you can really only do 7 to 10 before you start to fatigue. So that was chest and back. Very cool and very easy to do wherever you are. All right, next, how about some arms? So let's take a look at how this works. Again, I'm using this platform. You can definitely just step on the band, and in shoes, no problem. If you like to work out barefoot like I do, this could be a solution. So, and I mentioned this, right? So here we are. So just keeping my elbows close to my body, I'm going to come up into the curl for my biceps. Yeah, and again, you're getting resistance in both directions. This is great to do super slowly and really let your body feel the resistance all the way through the motion from bottom to top in both directions. Yeah. Nice. Keeping my knees soft, keeping my toes relaxed so that I have a good foundation. And then doing the other side of the arm. So that's working the bicep, then the tricep at the back of your arm. So here, I'm going to take these all the way up over my head. Make sure it's a little behind my body. So if you're standing on the band for triceps, you want to make sure it's closer to your heels than the balls of your feet. I've got my hands together. I'm keeping my elbows straight up and down and reaching up overhead. Oh yeah, this is great. Gives enough stretch and strength using the resistance of the band. Beautiful. taking it easy as you release, because obviously it's like a big rubber band, like we used to shoot across the room when we were kids in school. So just gently releasing from any working position. All right, so that was arms, shoulders, and balance, and also some leg movement. So, so let's start with a lunge. You can use, I can use my platform. You can also, of course, do this with shoes. So what I'm going to do is have my back foot be the one that's got the band on it. And I'm going to step forward into a lunge. So what I want to do is get a wide enough stance so that when I come down, my both of my legs come to roughly a 90-degree angle. And so you can just have your hands at your shoulders and getting some resistance here. Another option is to take them overhead and do triceps and lunges at the same time. This is obviously a little more challenging because I'm tightening the band because it's higher on my body. Yeah. And obviously, you're going to do both sides, both left and right sides. But that is great for balance, as well as legs, core. Lunges are one of my very favorite exercises. And then let's look at shoulders. How can we do some shoulders? Pretty simple. Just taking the band again to your shoulder, got my palms facing forward, and pushing up and down. Yeah, simple, but really effective. Yeah, beautiful. Nice. Good. And gently releasing. And then you could also, if you, that's working one angle of the shoulders. Another way you could do this is to work by taking at the top of the elastic and winging out. So I am tipping over a little bit at my torso and letting my elbows come up to the side. This is also targeting my upper back as well as my shoulders. Yeah, these are sometimes called deltoid flies. If you can play with how long you want the band, so you could come out to the side and go more for the shoulder, or lift more through your elbows and get more of your back. So those are two ways of doing the same kind of fly movement. Really effective using the bands. Cool, so let's set the bands aside, and the last section that we're going to do is the core and some impact. So we talked about last time about how impact is happening all the time. You don't have to be jumping up and down, although you can be. And so one way of doing this is just walking. You can also, like we did last time, bump your heels. But if that starts to feel good in your body, another way of getting some impact is pretending that you're jump roping. Here's what I love about this. I can never miss. Yeah, so just doing little jumps. You can see I'm just barely coming off the floor, but my body is getting this nice stimulation from doing fake jump roping. I can also, similarly, you can also do sort of fake skiing and playing around with how your feet are coming in contact with the floor. It's really great for your body. You don't have to do it that long. A minute is more than enough. And you can play with doing few sets of that to give your body both cardiovascular stimulation as well as skeletal muscular stimulation. All right, so let's talk about some core exercises. Last time we did some variations on the plank. This one I would like to offer as a possibility, what I call the moving plank. So there's two ways you can move it. You can take a plank position, and this is when you have gotten yourself so that you can be on your feet. It really won't work very well if you're on your knees, but you can move the plank almost like a stick bug, long legs, long arms, walking this way. The other way you can move it is to rotate it. Rotate onto the sides of your feet, back onto the balls of your feet, and rotate to the side. So this is a way training your core all the way around. Yeah? So the moving plank. Great way, great thing. I mean, you could do that in a hotel room with almost no space at all, right? Let's see. So the next one that I wanted to share is sometimes called bird dog. I'm going to get a mat for this because my knees are sensitive. So there are lots of variations of bird dog. What I love about this is that it targets this cross-lateral strength that is so functionally important. No matter what you're doing, it is a great integration of left and right and upper body and lower body. So if you're just beginning, you might just take one hand, one foot, one foot. As you're ready, you can reach out with one foot and one hand along the diagonal. This is requiring your core to stabilize and your joints to coordinate along this cross-lateral line and your core to support you as you're doing this. The other way you can do this to progress it is to come in and out and do multiple repetitions on one side. Doing that on one side. If that becomes too easy, having a hand weight. So I have a couple of very simple, small hand weights. I like ones that are soft, like they're almost like bean bags. Here, I'll show you. I've got 1 pound and 2.5 pound ones. You can see them here. They're just squishy. You can put it on your hand. You can hold it like this. This one you can actually strap to your hand or your wrist. And I find those really comfortable. And they're a great way of adding resistance to any exercise. Core exercises in particular is where I use them. But there's lots of applications. There's lots of creative ways you can use them. The last thing I want to show you, it might be helpful to have a block or a ball or something like that. I call these the kneeling chop. You don't have to do these kneeling. You could do these from a lunge position if you have sensitive knees. So something like this and coming across. I like to do them kneeling. It feels to me that it gives me a little more specificity in my my core. It feels like I work my core more and that I'm not focusing on balancing. What I'm doing is I'm squeezing the block between my hands, coming up toward the bent front knee, and coming down toward the back hip. This is a fantastic range of motion and movement to train. It's easy to start just holding the block instead of pushing it between your hands. Keep reminding yourself to hold it firmly and pushing between your hands. Yeah. So many ways of building strength. So you can see that I've added a little bit more gear for this progression. But it's all pretty simple and not expensive and very portable. So I hope that that is helpful. I am very curious to know if you have any questions, if they have if you have particular gear that you're working with and you were curious about how to apply it. I hope you would just reach out and let me know, either put it in the comments below or send me an email. And next time, we'll talk about the barbell. All right, y'all, stay strong. Take care.